You are created by God and loved by your Creator. Hi, my name's Deb Thomas, and you have stumbled across my YouTube channel. Today is Thanksgiving Day of 2022, and I could not resist any longer avoiding another post. So, while I have a few moments of quiet to myself before I join family this evening or step into my next activity, whatever that is, just thought I would actually stop and take the time to post a video that I should have posted weeks ago. So, content in my own heart and mind has reached critical mass and I can no longer contain it. I must download. So, that's what this video is. So, to start off, it is Thanksgiving. And so, I'm not sure what the title of this video is actually going to turn out to be, but it's pretty much talking about what's in your mental, emotional, and spiritual digestive tract. You know, it's Thanksgiving Day. We're all going to eat a bunch of food and either really love it tomorrow or really regret ourselves for having done it tomorrow. But nonetheless, throughout the year, we eat as a daily practice. We just do more of it on Thanksgiving. And when it comes to gratitude, which of course I love starting out with, that's where I'm headed right now. It peaks at this time of the year, but I think it's often forgotten the potency of it as a practice. Just like we don't just eat Thanksgiving Day for the rest of the year, we don't just give thanks during Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving Day holiday season, as one time. If you really want to get the effect of what it means to give thanks, you'll do it on a regular basis. So for those of you who are taking it on as a new practice, congratulations. And for those of you who are like, oh, I only do this time of year, I invite you to consider what would happen if you only ate or breathed air in and out one time a year. Like the strength and the sustaining power of gratitude is really most potent when it's done and it's practiced regularly, because it's like building a muscle. It really is. So my gratitude this year takes me again all the way back to January of 2020. I can hardly believe it is the end of this year. But my gratitude is thanking God that there were 264 opportunities that I could have died. Most of you don't know my health journey, a 22-year battle, but 264 times I could have chosen not to be here. And I will post that journey. But this year has just been basking in the goodness of God and journeying with Him as I acclimate to what it means to be in the land of the living and experiencing the goodness of God in the land of the living. So, I want to share with you some of the things that have been in my digestive tract this year. And the line of demarcation to really talk about what's been going on with me will probably be hinge on my trip to Dallas, Texas. For those of you who got to see the video, thank you for watching it in its entirety. For those of you who did not, due to the fact that I used a friend's name without their permission, I will not post that link publicly. I may talk about them in conversation and use their name, but they didn't ask to be on my YouTube channel with their name splattered all over the internet, which there is a level of anonymity due to the fact that not everybody, I mean, there's so many people on YouTube who's following me, right? 41 people. For the 41 subscribers, thank you. That is not a beat down, but I'm really creating this content for the sake of capturing facial expressions, emotional reactions, the way I'm dialoguing and talking so that I can review it and one, grow in my ability to be present on the camera, but also look at, am I talking about things that matter, that make a difference? And what do I want to recall to read, write, or speak about later? So that's really what the YouTube channel is for. So for those of you who follow, thank you kindly. And for those of you who stumbled across this video, I trust that you might find something of value, but if not, definitely skip to something more interesting or funny, like the Texas Bushman, who I think is absolutely phenomenal, or follow anything by any of the Evans family members, Dr. Tony Evans, Anthony Evans, Jonathan Evans, Crystal Evans Hurst, or Priscilla Evans Shire. I find all of their content interesting, and I am reading a number of books. Go figure. So for today's content, did you capture the gratitude part? Do it on a regular. Make it a practice. Don't just breathe and eat once a year. Do it throughout the year. It makes a big difference, moment to moment, breathing in and out. Gratitude is an atmosphere that you can cultivate. And anything done in that context, it's amazing how your perspective will actually shift. So I'm grateful to be alive and well and experiencing the goodness of God in the land of the living. So, on to what is in my Thanksgiving Day digestive tract. Not literally, because we're not going to discuss all the things that there are to eat, because there are so many things to eat. But I do want to talk about my book list. So I'm looking away from the camera because there's a number of books that I've gotten via Audible, or that I found online for free. You might want to grab a pen and paper. I'm going to try to make this video maybe only 45 minutes, maybe. But I'm going to try to stay on point because I've begun to watch some of my previous content, and why you all watch me, I will never know. I don't stay on point. Ooh, shiny takes me everywhere. So I'm going to try to like keep this one on track and talk about the books that I'm reading this year, why I'm reading them. Actually, no, we won't even discuss why I'm reading them. That's like a YouTube channel and video by itself. But what I will talk about is the impact the content has had on me. Now, anyone could read any of these books and come away with different things. But let me tell you how I read books. I read books with a question in mind. I'm usually looking for something. Now, one thing I've been complimented on is, in some regards, my problem solving. I don't think I'm particularly great at it, but I do know this. I love the process and I love the creativity required for problem solving. So my reading books and content for my own self-development usually is impacting something I'm dealing with in a tremendous way. Like I'm really struggling with something. And the work that gets done because of the book that I read is rather remarkable. So some of the problems I've solved, the spaces I've moved through, the way that Abba has spoke to my heart, for those of you who are Jesus followers, I'll be talking about him a lot as I talk about these books. For those of you who are not Jesus followers watching this YouTube channel, just know that I believe in divine appointments and interactions, and that God involves himself in the everyday affairs of human beings. So whether you experience him as God, know him as God, call him that or not, I believe the divine is always at work interacting with human beings. Just there are some of us who are an invitation for that interaction, and there are some of us who are just not interested at all. And then God still has it rain on the just and the unjust. Like he's still good and he's still God. So for those of you who are Jesus followers, just keep an ear out because I will be talking about how Abba's been interacting with me in the books that I've been reading, the people that I've met, all of that. So without getting any further off track, hoping to make this video only 45 minutes. Let me talk about my digestive tract and what I've been reading. So mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, the line of demarcation in this year's journey will be my trip to Dallas, which happened in September. So it's fairly recent, but there are books that I was reading before then, and then books I was definitely reading after that trip. So, some of the books I was reading before then and the impact that they've had on my life is My Winter Season by Jonathan Pitts. Jonathan lost his wife at a very young age, walked through the grief, but also walked through the goodness of God. An absolutely fabulous read, but it's also allowed me to relate to somebody who deals with struggle. Also, I got blessed by Winter Pitt's life and her posture of yes to God that Crystal talks about in that book. Absolutely fabulous read. Got that one before I went to Dallas. Another one I read before I went to Dallas was Green Light by Matthew McConaughey. I got turned on to Matthew McConaughey because I got turned on to Emmanuel Acho. I have two of Emmanuel's books here, which I got introduced to before going to Dallas, but I've not actually read them. I've just been following some of Emmanuel's content on YouTube. So there's that one. Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Emmanuel Acho was inspiring for that one. So what I love about Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man is that in June, I gave my testimony on codependency, and I talked about my issues with racism. Yes, as a Black person, definitely dealing with racism and dealing with what it means to be a Jesus follower and actively having to deal with that in the Christian community. It's easier to deal with racism in the world than it is to deal with it with Christians. And for those of you who are white and Jesus followers, feel free to have a conversation with me. What I came away with is Emmanuel choosing to talk about uncomfortable conversations with a Black man. When I got done sharing my testimony around codependency, I came away clear that God was speaking to my heart to be willing to have overt conversations and covert spaces. And so that means wherever I am, whoever I'm interacting with, I'm going to be unapologetically a Jesus follower. Then I'm going to be unapologetically brown because Jesus made me this way for his kingdom and for his glory. But how do I honor the image of God and affirm the image of God in my white brothers and sisters who don't look like me or have my background and experience, and encourage them to honor and love God in white skin with some awareness of their unconscious biases and how they interact with the world, unaware of the fact that they just go around offending, tremendously offending, just on the regular, because the atmosphere is cultivated for them to thrive in that kind of conduct and behavior. It's a no pass if you're a stand for the kingdom. So here we go, brothers in Jesus in Christ, stick for the kingdom, there's stuff to do. So anyway, that Emmanuel Acho, Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, totally in my digestive tract, in the sense that I've been following his content, have not cracked this book open to read it myself yet, but I was introduced to this book. I will come back to this one. So, and what's crazy is, for all the hard copy books that I'm looking at here on the floor, I have a crate about the size of a portable file box that has been stacked with these books, and I've been in and out of the chapters constantly. So I am currently reading more than one book for sure. And then all the books that are on Audible, I wrote them down and listed them here. So let me get back to what I was reading before I went to Dallas. Let's see, Greenlight by Matthew McConaughey. That one for sure just let me know to look for the hand of the divine in everyday interactions that don't necessarily look super spiritual or seem to have some clear defined direction. Let me give you this example of what Greenlight has done for me in my life. Reading that book with Matthew McConaughey, I had actually, back in March, and this is before I read the book, but I actually had quit a job due to some racially inappropriate things that were happening, and I was not willing to sacrifice my professionalism or work ethic to submit myself to that kind of an environment. It just wasn't going to happen. So I quit that job and I started exploring some new opportunities. Inside of pursuing financial services as an option and looking at what I wanted to do, came across a really neat gal who invited me to join Business Network International. I didn't know why I was joining the group, but I did. And the process of joining it is a story in and of itself. I went to the first visit and was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. But people really connected with me. One of the members invited me to come out, and while I was still a student in massage therapy, invited me out to care for him and his wife. It went really well. Went back to visit at the invitation of the gentleman who invited me out to his home to give he and his wife a massage. And sure enough, met a really neat gentleman, Joe Savali. If you've ever heard of Love for a Child and you're here in Michigan, Google, look them up. A ministry and outreach worth pouring into, caring for kiddos in awful situations. And they're the rejects of the foster system. So I'm just saying, he does great work. Met him, and then met a gentleman who used to be in BNI, Business Network International. Well, he asked me what had me there. I told him I was there for massage. Come to find out, his wife was also in massage, graduated from the same school I went to. After a conversation and getting to know her, she connected me with a woman named, for the sake of confidentiality, I won't disclose her name, but introduced me to a woman who was running a spa with another gentleman who, come to find out as of yesterday, this gentleman has been in massage not only for 30 years, but what I found out yesterday is that one of his instructors for massage was actually the massage therapist for Muhammad Ali. How I got to these network of people and the series of events that transpired, Greenlights definitely inspired me, looking out for those opportunities that they're a little off the beaten path, maybe not the direction I was trying to go, but being willing to go with the Greenlights. So anyway, absolutely loved him for that. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. She's been in my system for a number of years now, but Daring Greatly helped me to reflect on gratitude and dealing with foreboding joy. The part where you looked for the other shoe to drop because you want to safeguard and protect or anticipate injury or harm or danger or something awful so that you don't get caught exposed by being vulnerably and authentically and transparently unbridled with joy. And so for me, It's opened up my relationship to gratitude and my full expression, as emotional as I am, to really give myself to joy. The Power of Vulnerability is also by Brene Brown. That was a tremendous read. I go back to it periodically because it keeps me grounded in my relationship to gratitude and what it means to be human. I think often as Jesus followers, for those of us who are, it can be really easy to get a self-righteous, I have it together relationship to the rest of the world when we know that COVID has taught us something, 2020 has taught us something, the racism for me has taught me something, the death of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, like, and the countless others, and then icons that we lost. We lost Cicely Tyson. We lost oh gosh, why can't I think of his name? I just want to say Wakanda Forever, and his name Chadwick Boseman. We lost great iconic, and we're still losing Black men, just iconic figures. And so it's challenging. It was just really, really challenging, me dealing with that. So one of the books that I got into was Finding Me by Viola Davis. That one I believe was in my system before I went to Dallas. Also, a couple years ago, I got into a book by the title of The Bait of Satan by John Bevere, dealing with the spirit of offense. I kid you not, for those of you who are brown, dealing with people in church who are non-brown and building that relationship, dealing with the offense in your own heart. I'm really thinking about a book title called My Favorite Sin, and then racism, because the ability to be offended and have the world affirm it and be right is right there. It's just always right there to justify how I feel, make other people feel bad for making me feel bad. Like, it's so tempting. I'm just going to say it's tempting. It's right there. So to aggressively deal with it's going to take something. So John Bevere is excellent, excellent writer. If you haven't downloaded his app, the Messenger X, there's a number of free resources. You can get The Bait of Satan there. I recommend you do that. Do not buy it on Audible if you can get it for free. It's got some other references on that platform. I've also read Relentless, but I think Relentless was mostly in my system after I went to Dallas rather than before, but I had started reading it before I went to Dallas. Tremendous read, The Bait of Satan. Codependent No More has been on and off in my system. It's a study resource guide. So I haven't just powered through to listen to it, but I will say this, as I've been dealing with codependency, if you've not watched my testimony on my channel, that's worth checking out. But Codependent No More by Melody Beatty is a great resource. Just help me to decipher and pick apart things I'm struggling with in my own journey and relationship. So let me put Melody Beatty in context for how it's impacted me. If I relate to people, situation, and events in my life as jewelry, take all the jewelry, the pendants, the bracelets, earrings, everything, and wad them up. That's what being codependent has been like for me in my experience of it. And so Melody Beatty, along with some other really great resources that I've availed myself of, has allowed me to begin to shake a loose and pick apart that, so I can start seeing what goes where. And none of it's really meant to be discarded. Maybe some of it's meant to be given away or meant to be remembered and appreciated, but not active in my everyday life, various people, situations, or circumstances. But I am aware of them, and I'm present to them, and I can be responsible for how I react and engage. So Melody Beatty is just a really great resource for that. So that was Codependent No More. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I am still going through my book list from Audible. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. Listen, if you are at all interested in slowing the rhythm, pace, or cadence of your life, let me tell you, John Mark Comer makes a profound and compelling argument for understanding what it means to move at the rhythm of grace, to be a follower of Jesus, to walk in his way and be available to people. Now, y'all know I'm a hardcore solid introvert who's always trying to avoid humanity. For crying out loud, I'm recording a YouTube video on Thanksgiving evening just because I'm away from my family. I love my family, but there are moments when the slowing is not slow enough for me, and I just need to change the cadence. I'm going to be unapologetic about that. So I will post a video about the dry erase board of my life and why it was critical for me to cancel the holidays for 2 years and what it meant to get my health and well-being back mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I'm in that process right now. It's not pretty. It is incredibly hard work and it is difficult because I would like to give an explanation and I don't have words for what I'm experiencing that causes me to need to make these decisions. But I will tell you this, I got a therapist. I've been having a therapist for some time. And so one of the cool resources that I love about therapy is looking through a lens of an objective perspective and a professional that can actually guide me in this journey. And so between my doctors and the mental health professional that I engage with, I have chosen to disengage in environments that are not good for me at various seasons and points. It won't be like this always, but it is one of the things that I am doing right now. We will talk about that in the YouTube at a later date. But for now, just know John Mark Comer really does bring it home. And the ruthless elimination, I mean ruthless elimination of hurry, to be willing to, just like how much do you want the piece? Quite honestly. So to get something you've never had before, you have to be willing to do something you've never done before. And let me tell you, it's a little rough. Woo! It takes something, but it's well worth doing. So I'm doing it. The Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. I'll come back to that one. It was in my digestive system before I went to Dallas, but it didn't have the impact that it's having on me now. So I'll come back to that one. Unexpected Places by Anthony Evans Jr. I'm listening to that one because the reader is Justin Henry. So if you can find anything on Audible with Justin Henry reading it, I find his voice incredibly soothing. And the only book I have right now is Unexpected Places that has Justin Henry's voice. So I've been listening to that one. So for those of you who know, I'm also trained as a voiceover talent. So I enjoy listening to other excellent voiceover talents. And Justin Henry did a remarkable job reading Unexpected Places. Oddly enough, he and Anthony Evans' voice is a little different. You can hear the cadence and the rhythm is just ever so slight, and the tone and pitch. I think Anthony's voice, his register seems to occur as just a little bit higher. Still very full, wonderful voice actually for speaking and reading. But Justin Henry is like, I will just listen to Unexpected Places for his voice. Kingdom Woman by Dr. Evans and Crystal Evans Hurst. Okay, let me come back to Unexpected Places. Tremendous read if you want to hear the backstory of what it means to be a namesake to Dr. Tony Evans. It's a wonderful read, but it's a great story, and I've heard it, and I will re-listen to it. It's really great, and I love Justin Henry's voice. All right, back to Kingdom Woman. This was in my digestive system before I went to Dallas, but it showed up for me as a critical read because of the work I did back in June. I shared my testimony on 12-step recovery and codependency for the first time, and I also attended a women's event, and I started dealing with this whole thing of like the essence of womanhood, like getting a sense of it. And so that book showed up in my world. And I'm glad that I read it. I have already read it multiple times because it's an audiobook, and I always hear something new because I always have a question that I'm asking, so to speak, that I bring to whatever I'm reading, and it won't matter what it is. I can hear an insight from a different vantage point and get an understanding that I don't think I would have had before. So I enjoy that one. Stitches by Anne Lamott. Oh my goodness. If you've not read anything by Anne Lamott, first of all, she's got this melancholy voice, this very vulnerable, honest, but sad sound in her voice. I found it absolutely wonderful for sleeping too. For those of you who don't know, being an introvert for me, I'm also a little bit of a melancholy. I'm also a little dark. Like Netflix has this new show, Wednesday. Cannot wait to watch it. Wednesday Adam is my girl. I need a graphic t-shirt with her on it. Anyway, she and Frida Kahlo are a couple of my favorites, but Wednesday Adams, she's just dark. Most of you think of me as probably more like a Tigger personality when you meet me. And because I'm on camera, I'm not going to be a sour face. But I'm going to let you know, if you get to know me, I've got my dark side. And those of you who do, I definitely rock the dark side. So, but Stitches by Anne Lamott is this beautiful opportunity just to get connected to what it means to be human and to be human in spaces where you're not trying to fix it. That's my takeaway from it. And so it lets me stay honest to my humanity. Anne Lamott is an absolutely talented writer. I love her relationship to literature. I love her honesty and vulnerability in her reading and the writing. So if you can get an Anne Lamott via Audible, I think that's just the way to go. Divine Disruption. This is written by Evans family, Dr. Evans, Jonathan, Priscilla, Crystal, and Anthony. So I listened to that one almost regularly since the book came out, simply because Divine Disruption is a journey through difficult. While difficult is not only not getting better, but it's getting worse, and you're still trusting in a God that's sovereign. So for the Jesus followers, I think you'll appreciate it. For those of you who just can appreciate an insight into humanity, what it means to be Christian and not have it together, you can take it from a leading and pioneering Black family who share openly and honestly about their journey. So I definitely appreciate that one. More than anything, the voice I appreciate the most in that book is Anthony's voice. Again, there's a couple other books. He's got When Faith Meets Therapy I'll share with you. But I appreciate Anthony's voice in that narrative because he's a Black man and he's honest about dealing with emotion, which is like a paradox, like being able to see that in a human being and have them own it and not be apologetic, not shy away from it. When I say it's beautiful and a gift, I think most people, I don't even, there aren't actually words to articulate why that's a gift. And I'm exploring why I don't have words to articulate that. It's a tremendous read. So Divine Disruption by Evans family. Crystal, Jonathan, Anthony, Priscilla, and Dr. Tony Evans also all author that book. Free by Pastor Kevin Butcher. This one echoes a deep wounding for me in relationship to Christianity. Free for me speaks to performance Christianity versus what it means to actually be someone who is a Jesus follower, and to allow myself to feel my humanness while also in pursuit of being known and knowing a God who loves me. Pastor Kevin Butcher just tells a very honest story, given that he is someone I got to know while he lived here in the city, but to find his book on Audible and to hear him read it, there's just an honesty and a vulnerability about who he is and his voice and his reading that I think makes a world of difference. So if you get a chance to pick that one up on Audible, hearing things read by the author when they're telling their own story, just from a voiceover talent, I'm just telling you guys, it's a truly, truly, truly remarkable gift to hear people author their story, literally speaking it. They didn't just take the time to write it and get it published, and then you read hearing your own voice reading it. It's the experience of their being that happens in the reading. You'll never capture Viola Davis's story the same way if you hear her read it versus picking up the book to read it. It is there, but the way she articulates some of the words, the feeling that comes from it. I'm just saying. So Pastor Kevin Butcher, the book Free, I think is a tremendous read. A couple of books that I'm going to mention together, Blue Parakeet and A Church Called Tove. These came recommended to me by my local pastor at Metropolitan Church of the Nazarene in Roseville, in Michigan. So what you want to know about that is that actually, really and truly, sorry, there was a message on the screen. I forgot to put my screen on Do Not Disturb. I might even have an alarm go off, so bear with. Here I go being human. Superhuman. No, really human, not a superhuman, because that would be a different kind of human. Anyway, Blue Parakeet and A Church Called Tove. Both are written by Scott McKnight, except A Church Called Tove is also written by a young lady, and I can't think of her name, but I'm pretty sure it's Scott McKnight's daughter that writes it with him. These two came to me very early on this year, and even last year, but they've still been in my digestive tract as I've been dealing with allowing churches who carry one external image, but really there's something else happening, and giving grace for religious institutions who, for lack of a better term, drop the ball. And how do I heal and deal with my own wounds and injury around the environments that get cultivated that can cause that kind of injury. Um, and then my relationship to scripture, the word of God, Bible reading. The Blue Parakeet offers a tremendous perspective to not get caught up or stuck in what is commonly interpreted and translated, but really to be honest about it and to be willing to do the work and of what it means to own scripture and relate to it as it covers the span of time across different cultures, across different experiences. This is my takeaway. I'm not saying that's what the book says, but it offered me something to grapple with while I'm dealing with the dissonance in my own heart and the cruddy little corners of my heart regarding church, religious entities, pastors, pastoring families, scripture, interpretation. It allows me to be responsible without just throwing places and people who have caused me injury under the bus and writing them off. Okay. There's something about a grace for recognizing that as much as Jesus called the Pharisees out, there was a love for them and his willingness to call them out. And even though he was ruthless and unapologetic in his dealings, he was also ruthless and unapologetic in his love. And so that kind of continuity is, I lack it. I'm a finite human being, but with the fact that there is an infinite God who cares and loves people, it allows me to hold space and room for, I don't know, white Christianity wrapping their faith inside of the American flag, or for the Black churching community wrapping their faith inside of their hurt and injury that was done to them by the white community that wrapped their faith in their Americanism, or whatever the case might be. So it's just allowing me to shed some of those ancient, awful, gross layers. And it takes time to do that because there are, unfortunately, many, 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 many injurious, hurtful, and some crazy atrocities done by the church. I mean, historically, it's not new, but some of the stuff is in the atmosphere, in the environment, and we don't know that it's there, and we're not taking any responsibility for it. But we wonder why people aren't interested in Jesus. Well, it's time for us to actually deal. So anyway, those are all the books that I found via Audible that I have been into. Let me come back to some of the titles that I got into after Dallas and visiting in Dallas, Texas. So the reason I say after Dallas, Texas is because there are so many things that are now coming together that make more sense in light of that trip. Given that I've not traveled or gone anywhere in almost a decade, the trip to Dallas, Texas really was a big deal. Not just me exploring grad school, a church that I want to go to, sitting at the gravesite of Dr. Lois Evans, but rather the experience of me being on an adventure with Abba, experiencing an aspect of life that matters a great deal to me, but experiencing it as I've allowed myself to be influenced and to follow peace in my adventure. And so, given that I had no idea how that trip was going to happen, all the things that unfolded were so providential. There was no way I could make it up. The friendships I've come away with, the people that I've met. So let me go to the stack of physical books that I'm looking at here on the floor, and I'm going to bounce back between before and after Dallas and telling the story of those books. So let's get right to post Dallas. So I got home from Dallas, Texas, and one of the stories and narratives that were there for me was a deeper sense of my relationship to this book, God's Leading Lady by T.D. Jakes. Now, I read this book before I went to Dallas, but what made a difference for me is living in light of what I read. Not shrinking back from an opportunity, and going to Dallas was one of those aspects. But the bigger thing I took away from this is, what does it mean for me to be a woman? And to hear it articulated by a man, specifically a brown man, for me was a gift. And so living in light of a view that the counterpart in my demographic of brown people, hearing him share it and honor women in that capacity elevated the game I'm playing for what it means for me to be a woman. And it only gets so far because it's told by a man, right? So thank you, Bishop T.D. Jakes, for sharing this. And coming back home, I really got clear that womanhood is a developmental stage, like mature womanhood, just like you have a 2-year-old and a three-nager. And in those little women, those teeny tiny little women, you begin to develop womanhood. I'm present to that even more so, but there's a level of accountability that got communicated to in this book in such a creative, loving, gracious, uplifting, wholesome way. Love Bishop T.D. Jakes for this book. Okay, great read. All right, so then the book that really got me was Seasons of a Woman's Life by Dr. Lewis Evans. Now, I don't recommend that you read this book, but I'm not saying it because you shouldn't. I'm saying that if you don't want your life messed with, and if you don't want something to happen in your life, don't read the book. But if you are willing to put your life up on the mat and to look at who you are as a person in your pursuit, your relationship with God, and dealing with yourself, this book is a masterclass in womanhood, in understanding who you are, why you are, and the difference that you make and why you matter. Oh my gosh. So I'm reading this for the second time, coming back from Dallas. I had read it before. I fought with God about reading this book. I often disagree with God because, well, pride, let's just call it what it is. I know better. And so I tell God that I know better. And then we have a conversation about that. So, Seasons of a Woman's Life by Dr. Lewis Evans was really great. So I read the whole book while knowing that my heart was called to still be in chapter 1 of the book. Y'all, I've made notes in this book. What read am I on? I read it the first time. I'm on the second read. I read it the first time, April 22 through August of 22. Picked this up, returning from Dallas on 9/26 of this year. And I'm still in chapter 1. But let me tell you what happened as a result of being in chapter 1. Chapter 1 did a couple of things for me. It got me writing. And the month of October, I took on the assignment of 30 minutes in 30 days. I started writing to a degree that I've not written before, saying all the things, not worrying about, no filter, just getting it out. I'm impressed by the fact that when I've accomplished that, I fell short by about 4 hours because the rigor of the discipline was quite intense. But inside of doing that, what else did I have come by me? Inside of reading that book, oh yeah, while I was on my way to Dallas, I had a couple of other books in my system. One of these you're not going to be able to get, but Giver's Gain, Business Network International by Dr. Ivan Misner. This book actually talks about what I'm noticing here is how an organization is built with community in mind, because it's a referral network. And so to do referrals, you have to be in relationship. And to be in relationships, you have to get to know people. I'm an introvert and I don't want to have to get to know people. But since I am a business professional, this is going to be critical content, but how to build a community and relationship such that people want to do business together. Mind blowing. I love organizational structure, and this book makes me very happy. Slow reading it. I'm only in chapter 5, but I will tell you this. Tremendous read. Dr. Ivan Misner is brilliant. On my way to Dallas. So this was actually in my digestive tract before, even more so now coming back. So I really like Giver's Gain, and I'm nowhere near done. Still lots of reading to do. Chronicles of Mansoul, if you're not familiar with anything by John Bunyan, which you are if you're a Jesus follower or like literary works. John Bunyan has done a lot of work. Pilgrim's Progress is another title that you'll know. Mansoul, though, is this absolutely phenomenal adventure to understanding humanity and God's relationship to it. It's an allegorical tale, but it can reveal a lot if you're willing to put yourself in the story. So, yes, you can find this one on YouTube. You can find this one. Oh my goodness. Oh, I should have put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Too late. We're moving on. All the buttons, things stop popping up. I don't even know if you guys can see that. Anyway, this I'm still in the middle of, nearly finished, but I will tell you this. I was in Dallas in one of the workshops for the the single summit. I think it's Pursuit Single Summit, and it was Connect is what we were talking about. In one of the breakout sessions, really, I actually recommended this book to the one of the speakers. Tremendous read, and at that time did a lot. So I'm still reading it, and it just gets you present to your soul. I just think to what it means to be human and interacting, being in your body and in your skin, interacting with other humans, just kind of takes off that whole false, super religious demeanor that you ain't got it together. I know I ain't got it together. Anyway, great read, still in the middle of it, but I read this book growing up as a child. So for me to read it again is a little bit nostalgic. So definitely enjoying it. I highly recommend Man Soul, as retold by Ethel Barrett. A really great read. The cover of the book looks a little different because I think she tried to update it. And so now it looks like this, The War for Man Soul, super cool cover. Never mind, my ring light circle keeps showing up. Can you see that okay? Okay, yeah. So anyway, those books are in my digestive tract. So back to Dr. Lois Evans, because that's how this book has been haunting me. Just when I think I'm done reading it, some aspect of my life around this masterclass of womanhood that she is a masterclass in womanhood. Her life still speaks, even being at the church. The essence of her presence is palpable. I'm just saying, this book is a game changer. I don't know if I want to recommend it to you because your life is going to get affected. It's going to be brilliant. I have changed and I don't recognize myself as a result of this woman's work. Tremendous. Absolutely tremendous. So what's beautiful about Dr. Lois Evans is she mentioned a book that she read in her book. And she mentioned this book. So You're the Pastor's Wife. I decided that if this masterclass, genius, phenomenal human being in womanhood can tell me that she read a book in a book that she wrote, that meant that maybe I should explore the book. So I'm currently reading this one. I'm on chapter 3, slow going, but again, just grounding oneself and what it means to be a human being and love Jesus, but not taking, but really dropping the facade of this superficial, super spiritual, incredibly religious, blah, 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 blah. Just get rid of it and really show up and be with people. What I am clear about is I am passionate about two things. I'm passionate about affirming the image of God in human beings. I'm passionate about them having relationships with each other, and I'm passionate about serving them. I love what I do, and all of my gifts and my skill sets and my talents to be of service to human beings is a gift. It's the essence of what it means to just love Jesus. Anyway, so those are two books that will probably keep popping up because somehow being a woman and seeing this woman's journey and how she lived still resonates. It's probably going to be my go-to resource. I don't care what season of life I'm in. I'm probably going to read it. Now, you should know that Seasons of a Woman's Life is now a Bible study. Y'all, I'm not getting the Bible study because between this book and the Holy Spirit, it is enough. I'm just going to say it's enough. But while we're on Bible study, The Word has also been a book before and after the trip to Dallas that I've been into. So one of my favorite leaders in the world is John Maxwell. He's got this leadership Bible someone gifted me over a decade ago, still reading this book, still capturing the content. I cannot get enough, but there is so much that John Maxwell has taught me. So one of the things that I can definitely appreciate about him is he talks about leadership. So not only am I reading scripture in this book, but I'm also reading a couple of other well-established, at least one other well-established. Dr. Tony Evans, his study Bible, as well as the commentary. Currently, I'm in the book of James, but what I've been reading is Ephesians, James, Jonah, and Nehemiah. Those are the books that I've also been in, reading them at different times, and I've read them multiple times. The commentary has been really great. Between Dr. Tony Evans and John Maxwell, I don't know where you think you're going to get away with anything. You're not going to get away with anything. So there is a concept I've developed to hold me accountable to my own growth, and it correlates to my journey with health. my doctor prescribed me vitamin D and then vitamin D3 K2. Now, you probably don't know as much about D3 and K2 and why they're critical together. I won't be disclosing that in this video. Just know that they go together and they're meant to be. They're like MFEO. They're meant to be together. So I was looking to how do I correlate this physical need for the sun to shine on me, metaphorically, Son of God shining on me, and getting the essence of what I need from that light source. And so vitamin D3 and K2, what it does for me physically, first of all, most people think that vitamin D is a vitamin. Conversation I had with my doctor, it's more like a hormone. This video is not going to be 45 minutes because I'm looking at the clock. So I'm going to keep going to keep powering through. Thanks for staying with me. So vitamin D3 and K2, more like a hormone, and they're responsible for probably over, 200 functions in the body. I'm not going to get into it, but one day I will when I talk about my health journey. I'll talk about the impact. But what it's done for me mentally, emotionally, and spiritually is given me a place to stand. So when it comes to leadership and my development as a leader, something God and I have been talking a lot about because I know I'm meant for that. And I already do that in a capacity. Vitamin D3 and K2 for me stand for vitamin D3, discomfort, dissatisfaction, and disruption. When all three of those are something I'm experiencing, I'm right where I need to be in the sunshine. I'm dealing with whatever there is for me to deal with. And then K2 stands for, oh gosh, it just escapes me. Kingdom action and kingdom perspective. Give me a second, let me look. I wrote it down and it hangs on my wall. Oh, I see it there. Okay, and my mountain of books I'm stepping over. Here we go. Kingdom action or kingdom thinking and kingdom action. So vitamin D3 and K2 are a concept that keep me grounded in relationship to, if you think you're supposed to settle in and get comfortable and it's going to go your way and you're going to be really happy and content and everyone's going to cater to you, think twice. That's not vitamin D. That's definitely not D3 or K2. So D3 for me, I get from John Maxwell and his leadership, disruption, dissatisfaction, and discomfort. And then K2, kingdom thinking and kingdom action, are a couple of the things. So those keep me grounded. So those are a couple of books that I've been into. Jonah, Nehemiah when it comes to leadership or the lack of leadership. And then looking at James and Ephesians. Ephesians is just grounding one in what it means to be a believer, but James is like applied Christianity. If you think you know something, but you are not taking actions, think again, your faith doesn't mean squat. So really kind of very honest conversations, and it kind of fits my personality vibe. Thank you, Jesus, for making me this way. So those are a couple of books that I'm really into. So and that I was doing before I went to Dallas, but the potency of what I discovered before I went to Dallas is hitting me hard now that I'm back. And so just keeping me in that groove. Let's see. So while in Dallas, I went to the bookstore at Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship, and I wasn't sure if I was going to buy any books. And so I went and visited the bookstore, but I was like, I don't need to get anything here. I already have enough books by the Evans. Oh my gosh, not another book. So that Sunday I went back and I just felt in my spirit a couple of the titles I needed to pick up. So I picked up this one here, Oneness Embraced by Dr. Tony Evans, the most revised version of it. And then Anthony's book, When Faith Meets Therapy. The funny part about that is I didn't know that it was signed. The chicken scratch at the bottom is mine because it ministered to me. Had no idea I was getting a signed copy. Thank you, Anthony and Stacy, for signing my book. And I didn't think I was getting this book for me. I was like, I don't need this book. I already have a really great therapist. Yay for Anthony and his journey. Yay for Stacy and the support. Like, I'm all about it. But this book title is not for me. And so I told Jesus I wasn't going to buy the book. And then I bought it. And then I told Jesus I didn't need the book. And then I started reading it. And just when I thought this book really wasn't for me, God spoke to me. So now we are reading the book. So there's that one. What I love about Oneness Embraced is my journey in dealing with racism is I'm living it out loud. There's just no way I'm going to pretend like I don't deal with racism. Dealing with it for myself as a brown person, dealing with it for myself as a Jesus follower, dealing with it as a woman, like all the ways and levels one could possibly discriminate about me, bring it on. But also at the same time, for all the ways that I could justify my injury, hurt, and offense, we could bring that on too. Doesn't mean it's justifiable. So what's neat is to hear from someone who's journeyed, walked, dealt with actively. This is not a narrative that's been made up. This is not just like really good fiction. The man lived it. So for me, I find great courage in this title. So if you're able to pick it up, it's one, a tremendous resource, but also I'm getting the journey of Dr. Tony Evans, and it just deepens my appreciation for the culture that Oak Cliff Bible Fellowship is. And it affirms for me, oh, that's why when I visited, I felt safe. I felt okay. That environment felt great for me. Definitely not perfect, but healthy. I cannot tell you about healthy church environment. I don't know that I've ever experienced it, not until I went to Oak Cliff. And that's not just because of one church environment. That's just from church environments. But guess what? Everywhere I went, there I was. So is it just the environments that I went to, or am I carrying this environment with me? Is one interacting with the other? Worth looking at. So I will challenge both myself, but also church fellowships, that we aren't interacting with each other unimpacted by each other. We're definitely affecting one another all the time. And the accountability, it goes both ways. I'm responsible, and so are those church environments. All right, so I love Dr. Tony Evans sharing his journey. So because of reading Dr. Tony Evans' book, he references the Acho family, given that the Achos and the Evans are friends. Brings me back to Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. Dr. Tony Evans references that book, but also the fact that I'm living this unbelievable journey, and having read Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. Matthew and Emmanuel Acho have also, talked about multiple things on Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man. So watching their synergistic relationship and bringing about change in the world also prompted me to want to get Illogical, because Green Lights and Illogical, Green Lights that I've actually read, but also the premise of Illogical, no, I haven't read this book, alludes to the same thing, like being willing to take steps going forward. But then I think Emmanuel, from what he's sharing, it kind of hones it out. So this one I'll be reading a little bit more as I cross over into the new year. Same thing with Uncomfortable Conversations with a Black Man, because I've watched all of his videos. Writing, journaling, and Deborah as a Businesswoman. Let me get those books. So beginning this summer, I realized I wanted to launch as a small business. I wanted to attempt to get that done. It hasn't happened yet, but it's a work in progress. And I keep a journal. So what I have in my lap are journals. And this one for me is really cute because it says S-Core and it's got a zebra corn on it because I'm still a fan of unicorns. Yes, deep down inside somewhere I'm 5. Anyway, so I've been journaling and writing down some of these business concepts, sharing them. And for the first time earlier this week, I actually wrote out all of what I want inside of a business idea for who I am and what do I want to accomplish. And then how do I go about having someone fund that? And sure enough, as it stands, I submitted that. And now I'm in a conversation with a scheduled Monday appointment every Monday up and through the new year, which I think I'll move to a bi-weekly schedule. But I will be meeting with someone to help me accomplish that. So super intimidating, but then again, it fits the space of the book Illogical, like being in pursuit of an objective, but not necessarily knowing or being stuck on how it works out, and being open to the green lights as they show up. So that one's encouraging in a journal. Adventure. This one here is a very old journal. I've had it for some time and I've been writing in it for a long time. I think I may only have 20 pages left in this journal. And what I'm excited about is chronicling the goodness of God. Can I come back around to gratitude? Can I come back around to your human experience? No matter whether you're in leadership, people are looking at you, expecting something of you. Every season, I'm learning, I am mentoring, teaching, training, or growing myself or someone else. And when I capture the gratitude, it just makes something available that was not available before, that maybe I would not have seen until it got there. This journal is blank, but I mentioned the crazy green light journey to meeting the owner, as well as my friend, instructor, mentor. I call him Yoda of massage, the 30-year seasoned massage therapist. I think I'm going to journey my experience with him. I think I'm going to journal my growth, my learning, capturing the goodness of God in as much detail as I can, because I know I'm headed the direction I'm meant to go. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And I've got to be able to reference, one, my academic journey, learning my physiology and anatomy, my relationship to energy as in dealing with other people, my relationship to myself in this field, and the pursuit that I am to be able to engage with professional athletes as a massage therapist and hopefully as a speech language pathologist. Super excited about it. So this journal is not even opened yet. I still have the tags on from Michael's craft store. But I picked it up, and that one is something I'll be completing between now and the end of the year. So the reason this video really mattered to me, I've only got a couple more books to go over, but what I want you to know is why it was worth the hour for me to say this is I need to be able to come back and look at this and say, that's what happened in my life. That's what I was reading. This is what was in my digestive tract. This is what caused me to bear X, Y, and Z fruit in my life. This is why I can see it. For me, it's absolutely critical for that. The other part of it, which I was going to say something about that and I can't remember now. But I've got to be able to capture this and see where I was in this season of my life. Another book has come to me, a couple of them. Oh, here's one more journal. A journal that I had that I was working on, You've Always Been Essential. I think it's cute, but it really did speak to me. I started this journal before I went to Dallas when I was attending the women's event where I kind of woke up to this mature womanhood journey. And so it's got some journaling notes in it too. So capturing the goodness of God, capturing the gratitude, making sure that you're able to reflect on it in a way that it makes a difference for you. A book that always stays in my reference, both for my mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being, is a dictionary. I know that seems crazy, but it's amazing how words capture definitions that we assign to them that they don't actually mean because of the context that we use them in, and then we forget what something actually means. For example, the word integrity. Most Christians are going to attach some ethical and moral value to that. That's great. That's great. You know, integrity is what I'm doing when nobody's looking. Okay, great. That's great. But look up the definition of integrity. Integer, to be whole and complete. Workability. Just look up the word, okay? So for me, it allows me to have some space. There's a book on integrity that I read by Henry Cloud and John Townsend, I think a psychologist and psychiatrist, a whole different approach. And they are faith-based practitioners that just deal in the world with human beings. Just be human, Jesus followers. That's all I'm trying to say. So a couple of the other books that have come to me as I've been exploring my journey as a massage therapist, another title that I've picked up in a class I took, craniosacral. It's the relationship of the brain to the sacrum and then the spinal cord and how we function and move as individuals. Oh my goodness. Upledger Institute is brilliant. So I've registered for classes that I will be taking there, hopefully in the next few months to forward my education. So it's in my digestive tract. It's just, I'm not actively reading it because there's so much to read. Notice, I think I've listed, good God, how many books have I listed already? 20, 25, or 30 maybe. Another book that came to me is The Sound of Healing. So this one might hit for most, depending on who you are, a little woo-woo. But at the end of the day, there's something about sound and frequency. And what intrigues me about it is that there is a passage in scripture, can't think of where it's at right now, but it says something about human beings that if they're not willing to acknowledge God, the rocks will cry out. That for me, intrigued me to look at frequency as it relates to human being. So with that being the case, I'm just saying, I'm interested in this read. You can see it's still in the package. I found a place to read it where it's not wrapped up, so I've started this book already, but I'm really curious to find out, how does the human being interact, the speech, language, hearing, the body being a resonatory cavity, deal with frequency, and how it impacts our bodies for better or worse. It's brilliant, brilliant work. I can't wait to get into it. So just when I thought I was reading all the books and seeing all the things, a girlfriend reached out to me and said, Deb, have you ever heard of the 12-week year? What? So this book you can find on YouTube. The 12-week year, you can find it on YouTube. It's a free Audible. I'm going to tell you right now, the voiceover talent reading it is as dry as all get out. Dry. However, the content is rich. Don't even get me started. One of my favorite concepts in this book is accountability as ownership. I'm going mad about this. If you are looking for a calendar, planner, mental process that's got grace and compassion built into it, where you're not running like a crazy person, because you have to remember, I also recommended that you read The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. To me, if you want to find a way to take what John Mark Comer talks about and apply it in your life and get a rhythm with it, get a groove, a system, a cadence, catch your stride in life, but still get stuff done. Because y'all know I'm a list person. I'm not people-oriented first. I'm stuff and list-oriented first. So it really takes something for me to honor people in the process. I'm working on it. But 12-week year gives room for all of that. Brilliant, brilliant. It is a workbook. I recommend you get the physical copy as well as listen to the audio so you can grasp the overall concept before you decide to implement it. But this will be how I manage life in the new year. So I'm already beginning to put structures in place to take care of the 12-week year. I was supposed to do that tonight if this video was really going to be 45 minutes, but now we're at an hour and counting. So I've got my planner system for the 12-week year. Oh, man. For the 12-week year. Here's my little planner. I'm setting up for it. I'm super goofy about it, acting like a 5-year-old with all the stickers. Very happy to have all the stickers. You don't even know how happy I am to have all the stickers. So anyway, that I'm actually working on. I stopped in to see a neighbor because I crafted a gift this year for a kiddo for Angel Tree, and my neighbor made the bow. I need to go to Bow University because my neighbor makes amazing bows. The bow I put on that gift is like $30. But I paid nothing for it because he's my neighbor. But while at my neighbor's house, what did he give me? Deb, this is such a great read. No, not another book by the Evans. I love the Evans family. They write great things. But now I'm reading a book by Dr. Evans, by Dr. Lois Evans, by Anthony. And then I was just given this book by Priscilla. Like, what is happening to my life? So anyway, I will say this. I'm looking forward to getting into this book because my neighbor was talking to me, and I don't know, I think he'd been watching my YouTube channel, so he knows what I've been dealing with in the book of Jonah. And he says that this book kind of takes on the framework and reference to the book of Jonah. So life interrupted. Now, you guys, I joined a BNI group and then end up with a massage therapist who was trained by the therapist who took care of Muhammad Ali. My life has been tremendously interrupted, but it's been interrupted for the better. So even though this one has not yet entered my digestive tract, it is on my plate of things to consume in terms of books for my mind and for my mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So it took an hour, but that captures everything I'm reading, what I'm processing, my gratitude, how I'm stepping into the new year, how I'm setting a new cadence and stride. So if you wonder where some of my conversation comes from with you in the new year, where I'm at, what I'm excited about, this is just where my life is grooving right now. But I will say the basis for all of the books that I've read, all of the ways of my acting and behaving in life that I'm now challenging and looking at newly, like why have I chosen to engage that way, is being filtered through these two books. I would say if I were in a college course for womanhood, like godly womanhood, these two are probably the main books that the Holy Spirit's invited me to read. Because, I call it HSU, Holy Spirit University, where you register for classes and you never leave. You're always on campus for life. There is no graduating. There's only mentoring and teaching and being in another class and training and teaching somebody else. So HSU, Holy Spirit University, if I was in classes, these would be my main texts. And then everything else I'm reading is a supplemental text as directed for my course and program for the trajectory that I'm on in the direction that the Holy Spirit's taking me. So I'm grateful to Abba for what's in my digestive tract. I'm thankful for the influence. I'm thankful for the training and development in righteousness that brings about peace. I am thankful that I am following the peace and the Prince of Peace as we head into the holiday season and into Christmas. I just really encourage you, take your gratitude with you. Allow it to flavor, touch, and impact in every aspect of your life. And if you have to engage in gratitude with all five senses to make sure you just don't miss anything for the sake of armoring up your own soul to deal with what life throws at you, I encourage you to do it. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you for watching this epically long YouTube video just on the books I'm reading. I deeply appreciate you guys for listening. And I can hardly wait to come back to this video and its content to explore where I'm at in the new season of my life when I come back to reflect on this. So I hope I wasn't too hard to follow. I am learning to speak to those listening as I watch my own YouTube videos and not get lost in my head. You have no idea how many things I didn't say that I wanted to say simply because, well, I'm Deb, and ooh, shiny is always how I'm being distracted. And there is so much shiny stuff at the holiday season. So anyway, I'm going to interrupt my own speaking to enjoy some silence as I engage in slowing my life down. Happy Thanksgiving.